Hey, what's going on, champs? I'm Aaron Deliosa. Welcome to an Immigrant's Life podcast, my podcast about immigrants and immigration and everything in between. Thank you for listening and downloading the show, and thank you for supporting my dad.
And we are back, Immigrant Nation. As mentioned at the beginning, I'm Aaron Deliosa. This is an Immigrant's Life podcast at an Immigrant's Life on all the social media. Like every week, I want to give a shout out to you, my listeners. I want to thank you for your continued support. I appreciate you and everything that you do to help spread these beautiful stories of our guests that were created through the process of immigration. On a different note, this Sunday is Father's Day, so we decided to invite an amazing dad on the podcast to talk about his experiences and dreams for his kid, and especially to talk about his late father. Having said that, we would like to say Happy Father's Day to all the father figures out there, and we are lovingly dedicated this episode to the memory of Santos Hilario Rodriguez Calix. He is the late father of this week's guest. Rest easy, King. You are missed. And with that, without further ado, let's get into the show. Isa, dalawa, tatlo. Today's guest is a radio host, an immigration consultant, but most importantly, an amazing dad. Like a Mayan king, his life has been colorful like a scarlet macaw. Everyone, please welcome Franklin Rodriguez.
Wow, with that introduction, I don't know if I can do a better job of introducing myself. I love how you brought the Mayan. Love how you introduced the Mayan into with that introduction. And I want to tell your guests, I know that there's not going to be a visual, but his Zoom background, I saw it and I was like, oh, like I think I kind of recognize that background. I said that looks like a church in Honduras, and then he comes and tells me, well, that's it. It's in Honduras. And I was like, what? I was like, no wonder it seems so familiar.
Mm-hmm. Like I said offline, I do it for all the guests, make them feel at home. I prefer sometimes that if I know exactly where the person's from, so I could pinpoint. But usually, if I don't know, I just like cool places in this country.
Well, I'll tell you something. I'm actually from that city.
Oh, there you go.
I was actually born in that city. That's Tegucigalpa, which is the capital of it. And I was born in that city with Tegucigalpa. My parents met each other while they were studying, because that city is it has the biggest public university in Honduras. It's called the Universidad Autónoma de Honduras, which is that's the name of the university. And my dad and my mom met each other while studying there. And that's where I was born. I was born in Hospital Escuela, which is the biggest public hospital in Honduras. And after Tegucigalpa, once my mom graduated, then I moved to La Ceiba, which is a northern city. It's a coastal city. Mm-hmm. I moved there when I was like 2 years old. So I don't know what happened. You introduced me with a Mayan aspect, and now you guessed the city. It's great, man. Right. We're great. We're to a great start.
Thank you. I tried to do my my FBI, research.
That's great.
I try, I just like knowing about the person before we come on,
Yeah, it's good. And I'll tell you a funny story now, because I know that we're gonna talk about dads in a little bit. When I was born, because my mom and my dad were both students at the time, right? So money was a little bit tight at that time. So in Honduras, when you have a kid, right, you have to when the kid is born, and to get the kid released from the hospital, you have to pay a kind of a release fee, they called it, right? So that they can give you your kid, and you pay it's not, I don't want to say it's not a substantial amount, but it's an amount. It's people over there, every single penny counts.
Mm-hmm. If you're poor, it is significant.
Correct. Yes, correct. So my dad and my mom did not have that money. Mm-hmm. So my dad had his watch, and my dad went to the pawn shop and he pawned his watch to get money to pay the release fee. Now, when he went to the hospital, he always used to joke about this one, and my mom always tells me the story. When they went to the hospital, right, and and we're getting released, they signed all the forms, and they're like, "Okay, perfect, here's your key and everything." They said, "Well, okay, have a good day," and they just let them walk away. So then, like, my mom and my dad are walking away, and my dad is like, tells my mom, like, can you just give me the baby? Give me the baby. And he's like, walk fast, walk fast, walk fast, walk fast. And my mom's like, what happened? Why we walk fast? I can't walk so fast. My dad is like, they didn't charge a fee. I don't want them to charge you. We can buy milk with this. Let's go. Hurry up. So that was it. So I guess I was they didn't collect the fee on me, I guess. Hey.
Well, in Honduras or any developing countries,
yeah,
they don't really they don't have the manpower for that.
Yes, they don't have the manpower to come and charge you. Yeah.
That's amazing, man. It just bounce.
Just bounce. That we have, there was no other option at that time.
Yeah, when you're poor, dude.
Yeah, you know how that is.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned, before we get on, by the way, first, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. I know you're a busy man and you make a time for the podcast. I really do appreciate it.
No, I thank you for allowing me to share, my story, my experience with your audience. I was pretty excited when you messaged me and said, like, hey, would you like to come on the podcast? I was pretty excited, and and I'm happy, and I'm thankful to you, and I hope your audience will enjoy this podcast, and always thankful.
Thank you. And before we move on, and before we forget, because I am a forgetful man, why don't you tell the Immigrant Nation where they can reach you?
Yes. So as you mentioned earlier, right, I'm a radio host. If you're interested in following me, because of my radio show, it's called the Spanglish Hour. You can follow me on social media on Instagram at Franklin Rowe, which is my first name, and the first two letters of my last name is Franklin Rodriguez, so Franklin R.O. And the show is called the Spanglish Hour. As I mentioned, it's on Chin Radio 97.9 FM every single Thursday. As the name suggests, or the Spanglish Hour, I do speak about on English and Spanish. And if you're interested on immigration and follow me for immigration purposes, you can follow me on Instagram at Mi Casa Canada, where I do share all the information, tips, and the necessary information on immigration. So those are the two different accounts that I'm on social media.
That's beautiful. So how do you get the radio gig?
You know what? This is the right time at the right place. I don't have any radio experience, right, before at all. But about, I want to say 3.5 years ago, right, I was with a person, right, and we went, him and I and a couple other friends who went to a lounge, right. Anyways, we started talking and everything, and then he comes and he tells me, he's like, hey, by the way, he's like, do you have any experience on the radio? And I said, no, I don't. He's like, I like your personality, and I think you would be great at it. I'm like, what? I'm like, really? He hosts a radio show every morning, and he said there is Spanish programs. What I'm gonna do is I'll do an email introduction between you and the radio station director, and anyways, he made the introduction. I reached out to the director, right, and I said, who I was, and he sent me to the manager of the Spanish programs on the radio show. When he sent me there, the manager replied, and she said, "Oh, there's no opportunities available right now. We can't, And I said, "I don't mind just being a volunteer and everything." And she said, "Yeah, there's no opportunities right now." I'm like, "Okay, no problem." Then COVID started, right? And it has always been on my mind. Now, I had the little tick of like, oh, the seed was planted in me. of a radio show, right? So now I had the thing stuck in my head, and I was like, oh my god, that would be so cool, that would be so cool, that would be so cool, and I was excited. But I did my due diligence. There was nothing. One day I'm like, you know what? I'll send another email. I lose nothing. I'm just gonna send another email. You never know, whatever. I sent another email and I said, hey, my name is Franklin. I don't know if you remember me. Last year, this and this and this person introduced me, right? I just wanted to let you know that I'm still interested in an opportunity, right? If there's ever an opportunity, I would love to be considered. Lo and behold, he messaged me back. He emails me back and he says, hey, Franklin, he's like, you know what? Actually, we're restructuring the Spanish programs right now. And there is an opportunity, for a host. Why don't you come back to the station and we'll talk and we'll learn more about each other. We'll get to know each other and see if there's something that we can do. And I was like, absolutely. Anyways, I went, we talked, and he's like, well, you come, highly recommended. Let's give this a shot, and we go from there. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it when I that I was going to be on the radio, and I still so a month later. So that was the initial contact was around May, around the middle of May. So my show started on June 18th, I believe, was the first show that I had.
How did it feel when you go in the first?
It was. It was very, very nerve-wracking. Funny story, I did not tell anybody that I was going to be on the radio. I was so shy and embarrassed, and I was like, because the guy, the director had told me, oh, like, listen, we'll try a couple of shows, right? See how you feel, see if you like it. And obviously it was also a trial period for me, right? And see if I was actually, if I could actually carry a show, or if I couldn't, if I could come prepared, or right. So every single week, I was like scanning media and this and that, and making sure and see what I wanted to talk about, and looking at the new music being released and the old music, and just I create something that's called a radio script, right? So it's a 1 hour script, right, of everything that you're going to talk about, and all the musics, and when you're going to go on commercials, and when you're going to come back. And if you don't have a radio script, it's now I feel that I could do a show without one, but at the beginning you can't, because if you don't have a plan on what you're going to talk about, and that light goes green and they tell you you're on air in 3, 2, 1, and you don't know what you're going to talk about, you're in trouble, big trouble. So I would always be preparing my radio script and things like that.
Wait, how did you learn to make the radio script? Did you Google it? Did you research?
No, I actually attended something that is called YouTube University.
Okay.
So you know what YouTube is? YouTube. I just YouTube.
I
YouTube.
Heard of it, but
I just went on YouTube.
It just flew through.
It just flew over your head, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, you research it, yeah.
No, I just went on YouTube, and I researched what makes a good radio host. What are the steps to host a radio? And I did all the research prior to the initial meeting with the director, to kind of to kind of show that I kind of knew a little bit of it, even though I didn't know it. But like, you have to do it.
Fake it till you make it.
Correct. So I YouTube a lot. I watched a lot. I went down the rabbit hole with everything that we got on radio.
I love it.
How to have a good radio voice, how to learn how to breathe. I even took this. I paid for this therapy, which is a speech therapy.
Okay.
Right.
You went all in.
Listen. Opportunities, you have to take advantage of it, right? It's not every day that you're gonna get a radio show offered to you, or you're gonna have an opportunity to at least be on the radio for 1 hour in your lifetime. Right. And the fact that I was getting this opportunity, for me, was like, you know what, if I don't get it, that's okay, but I'm gonna give it all, everything that I have, so that I don't I don't want to be down the road and saying, oh, maybe if I had done this, I would have got it, or if I did this, or maybe I don't want that. I don't want any regret in my life. I don't want anything. I just want to know that I've done my best for every single opportunity, and that if it doesn't become a reality, it's not because I didn't try. Right? Doesn't matter what it is. So yeah, so I paid for this speech therapy just to see how to properly breathe when I was talking, because now I'm a little bit more trained when the pause is how to, but at the beginning it was like, we're here at the Spanglish Hour. You listen to Change Radio 97.9 FM, but you know what? We have reggaeton right now coming on. Okay, Wale, put the music on. Let's go. And I was like, whoa, it would have been nice if I had breathed like around 3 or 4 times in the middle of those sentences. So anyway, so I learned that, and that's it. And then I went to the radio show, and luckily after a couple of like I did like 3 sessions, right? And then he called me back for another meeting, and he said, so, what do you think so far? And I was like, you know what? I love it. I know that I'm not perfect, but I think that with time. And he's like, he told me, he's like, yeah, you do have a lot of potential. He's like, I think that I think you should let's keep on trying. And and now it has been 2 years now. This month marks the 2-year anniversary of the Spanglish Hour.
That's amazing, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's funny enough that it was not called the Spanglish Hour at the beginning. The first 3 shows went under the name La Sesión.
Okay.
Right? Because I wanted something, a name that it was easy for Spanish speaking to say, something easy for Anglophones to be able to say, and for French to be able to say as well. Right? So La Sesión, I was like, okay, La Sesión, the session, and La Sesión in French, so it should be, it's easy enough for people. But I always wanted to speak in both English and Spanish on the radio show. Always. That was my number one thing. I said, if that's another thing that I'm gonna tell you. I went there, even though I didn't know anything, right? I didn't have a radio experience. I said, I have a motto in my life that I'm gonna do something that I enjoy and something that I want to do. So I went and I said, listen, I really want to host a radio show, but I just have 2 things. The first thing is that I want to be able to talk in English and Spanish, right? I don't want to talk just in Spanish, and I don't want to talk in English only, because my English is not good enough and I'll have to resort to Spanish. And I've lived in Canada for long enough that my Spanish is not all up there either. So sometimes I have to resort to English. That was the number one reason. And after that, I said, that's the reason that I gave him. And they were like, yeah, no problem. We can, I just have to, the majority has to be in Spanish, right? And a portion of it in English. So I said, that was number one. And the second thing is that I have to be able to play reggaeton. I want to do a reggaeton only show, because reggaeton is not, how can I tell you? I grew up with reggaeton. Reggaeton is part of my identity. It's part of who I am. It's part of my identity. I was telling people like because I always get this question asked, like, why do you play reggaeton only? First of all, we're the only reggaeton show in Ottawa. I'm not quite sure about Canada, but definitely in Ottawa. And the second thing is, when I was born, right, salsa, the known Latin rhythms, which is salsa, merengue, bachata, all those rhythms and genres of music already existed when I was born. But reggaeton didn't. The word reggaeton was created in 1991 by Daddy Yankee. So Daddy Yankee and DJ Playero, I believe. So when they created the word reggaeton, right? 1991, I was only 3 years old, I believe. So as my life went developed, as I went into my teenage year, reggaeton literally went into their teenage years as well. So it was a new music, and reggaeton and I were the same age, right? So we grew up together, and that's why I said now that I'm 33 years old. Reggaeton now, it is what it is. It's huge all over Canada and the US, right? And it's part of the mainstream media, the mainstream music now.
Yeah,
so yeah. So
yeah, it's beautiful. Wait, when you play the music, do you have to pay like the music company? How does it work?
Yeah, the artist. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
every time.
okay.
So all artists in Canada have to be registered, right, with something that is called SOCAN, which is Sound Canada. All the artists registers there, right? And every time you play a song from that artist, right, you have to check, okay, this artist was playing this radio station. So then that artist gets money from that because you played their song on the radio.
Can you play whatever reggaeton music you want, or does the radio
absolutely.
station says, okay, this is the only one that you can play?
No. I can play whatever song I want. That's another thing. As I told you before, right? Like, if I was gonna do radio, I needed full creative control over it, even though I didn't know anything about it. But it's just because I needed to enjoy it. If I'm committing the time, if I'm committing the energy, because the 1 hour radio show, it's not only the 1 hour radio show. It takes a lot of time to prepare, and a lot of thinking, right? And a lot of like listening to new music, analyzing, it takes a couple of hours a week to kind of to have that 1 hour, to shrink everything into a 1 hour and try to make it as fun as possible.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Like even the podcast, like obviously it's not like a radio station.
No. You understand. No, but I could imagine like the coordinating with guests, right? After this, the editing of the sound, right? The editing of the video, the marketing, creating, and advertising for it. Absolutely, it's the same work. It's just different platforms, but the work is the same.
But I won't be good in live, man. I'll be like swearing all over the place, saying crazy stuff. You know what I mean?
It's nerve-wracking. A couple of times that has happened to me that I have had not sworn, but I have like lost my train of thought. And one day I was so busy that I forgot to create a 1 hour script, and I was like, not I forgot, but I was just like, I think I'm good now. I felt like,
okay.
I got overconfident.
Here we go.
I paid the price, man. I'm telling you, I was like, yeah, that's right. We're going with the next song.
I bet your producer is good, so he saved you.
Yes, the producer saved me, and sometimes I even he has a microphone also, so sometimes he comes on there and he tells me like, yeah, Franklin, we're going here, we're going there, we're going there, right? To kind of help. It's a teamwork as well. It's not only me, right? There's also the producer also has to be on his toes, right? Because every time we go on air, he has to go on commercials. He has to tell me, hey, Franklin, cut this off. We have to go on commercials, or I'm coming to you right after. So it's a 1 hour communication between the person who's behind was in the producing room and me that I'm in the radio hosting room, right? So we're always communicating with each other, to make sure that the show goes as smoothly as possible. So
that's beautiful. Do you have ever guest?
Yes, I do have guests sometimes. I do have guests. It's nice. It's nice to have guests. Sometimes, like you're alone there. So sometimes having person, it's great.
Yeah, definitely. But when you want to have a guest, do you have to run it through the management, or you just like whatever? This guy, he's coming on.
No. Like you do get a clearance, right? Depends on what it is. Right now that I have 2 years under my belt, right? It's a little bit more. I'm a little bit more lenient, right? And I know what to bring and what not to bring.
Do you
Right?
usually
So-
have musicians or just it doesn't matter?
Oh, I have everything that I think is cool.
Like
Right, it
artists.
doesn't necessarily need to be a musician, right? If I think that you're doing something cool, something good for the community, if I think that you're doing something something great, absolutely, you have to you come on in. Yeah.
That's beautiful. You must be the hero of the Latin people there now.
Well, no, not really, man. I don't, but it's nice, And there's like weekly shows also, right? So there's another set of there's a tango show, right? Perspectango. There's like on Tuesdays. There's La Voz del Fútbol, which they talk about soccer, right? And some Spaniard guys, they're really good. It's a really good show. Then you have Miércoles Latinos, right? And then Fridays we have the top 10, and Wednesdays we have the Spanglish Hour with me.
What happened if you swear?
What happened if I swear?
Yeah.
No, you're on air, nothing, right? Unless somebody calls and says, "Hey,
Yeah.
I just heard somebody swear over. I just heard Franklin swear." Then that's a thing, right? But you never, I tried not to do it, right? To make sure I don't get that call.
Of course. You should just swear in Spanish, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly. And what about here in Spotify? They have no funnel or filter over that, right?
No, dude, I don't care. I just put up stuff. Like, that's why I always tell people that you can swear if you want to.
Okay, so you don't
I don't care because I want the person to be the
Authentic.
100% authentic. I don't
Yeah.
I don't want people that I know swears and then suddenly doesn't swear. Like, it doesn't make sense for me. I mean, this is not a radio station. Like, I can edit it out if somehow the guest says, "Oh, could you please take that out? I don't want it coming out." I'm cool with that, but. Like, be a human being. This is one of my goals. That's why I started the podcast. Like, have communication, have a, chill out with a person.
And now I guess now I'm gonna go into the role of the interviewer. But what made you start the podcast?
I always wanted to start a podcast. The moment I heard about the podcast, I'm like, yo, I can do this. I can do podcasting. And I even said that my mom is she's going to hear this, but
Yeah.
because she listens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, my mom is she pushes me to do great things, right?
Yeah.
But, moms are moms. They're like, good, but, do something else kind of
Yeah.
situation,
Yeah.
But I remember when I did like a few episodes and she was listening and she told me, like, you're good at this. Like, you're really good at this. I'm like,
You're actually you're really good. You're really good because it's right now I feel comfortable, right? Just talking, we're just having the conversation. In the details of your Zoom background, with La Catralda behind you, all those things are contribute to the overall success, right?
yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, so to answer your question, I always wanted one, and then I never, like, life happens.
Yeah,
You don't,
correct.
you just like push it. And every time I hear this is even before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Every time
So you had the idea of a podcast even before the
oh
pandemic?
yeah, like before podcast was a podcast.
Yeah.
I had it already.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, life and whatnot. I keep on pushing it on the side, and I like pretending I'm John Steinbeck. I like writing,
Yeah.
stories. And, being an immigrant like you yourself,
Correct.
you hear this, and being an immigrant consultant, like, you hear this insane, amazing, heartbreaking stories about immigrants.
Correct.
So I said, you know what? I heard a story, and there was a voice in my head that says, like, yo, you need to do something with this. You need to, like, this is going to go away, and it's very important. Maybe it's a schizophrenic episode in my brain. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I started writing it. And I wanted to write a book of short stories about immigration and compiled it.
Yeah.
It's so hard to write a book. It's extremely difficult.
It's completely difficult. I know.
Yeah, life happened again. It didn't work out. And then pandemic happened. And I said, man, I see these people start. I had a friend that started a YouTube show. I'm like, yo, if this guy can do it, I can do it too.
Correct.
So I started doing it. I started, buying the equipment, and then I started thinking, like, what am I gonna talk about? Like, I could talk about sports. I love sport, but who cares about me? I didn't play NCAA or NBA. You know.
Yeah.
I could talk about random stuff, but again, who cares? Who am I for someone to listen to?
Yeah.
And then I said, I love immigration. I love immigrants. Let's talk about immigration, and that's it. And then I entitled the podcast. Was that supposed to be the title of the book, An Immigrant's Life?
An Immigrant's Life. Yeah. That's what really.
Yeah.
Well, and when did you get the handle?
I don't know. I just like you did it. I Googled it. If in case someone has it and then nothing showed up, like this is gonna be it.
Really? Wow. And like it was a handle available then on Instagram because you have it now.
Yeah.
Wow. How long have you had the podcast?
It's turning 2 this October.
It's been 2 years as well.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. And so the handle, you got the handle before the podcast?
No, I did it. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if some of my listeners like to listen to this. I think I've said this before, but I didn't know anything about podcasting. I didn't know anything about nothing.
That's how you start. Not
you know what
anything,
I mean?
Man. Yeah.
I didn't know anything about editing. I didn't know how I'm gonna do an interview.
Yeah.
Of course, I did my YouTube university as well. Just to be
exactly.
sure,
there you go. You got a degree, eh?
Exactly. So that I didn't even want to start the Instagram.
But you have to.
That's what my friend told me. Yo, you have to start an IG account. I'm like, no, leave me alone. I don't want to do that. And she's like, I'm a bit stubborn,
And no, but I can tell you, it's fear. It's fear to at least for me, when I got the radio show, I didn't tell anybody. I was so scared that people would judge me and people would laugh because I had the same thought as you, right? Who am I? Yeah. Who am I to be on the radio show? Who am I to be talking? Yeah. Who am I to, for people to say, oh, you know what? I'm going to tune in, to listen to this guy, right? And it's fear that was stopping you, right? For me at least.
Was it fear? You know what? No. I would say maybe a little bit, but mostly laziness. I am an extremely lazy person. Yes.
Wow.
Because I know once I open that account,
I know of work coming.
I'm fine with the work. It's just I'm gonna go obsessed.
Yeah.
And then that's it, right? Which I did. Thankfully, she forced me to do it, which I did. And that's it. I take pride on my posts, on my marketing of the.
It's really good. It's really good. We'll talk about that after off camera because it's really good.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think that the name of the podcast itself, An Immigrant's Life, it's a great name, and I like it, man. I think you're doing good, and I think you don't stop. And the same thing goes for me, Ray. That this is not a 1 or 2 or 3 year thing, right? If you see the successful podcast and everything, if you see the School of Greatness, right? I don't know if you probably heard it, right? How many episodes that guy has? That guy has like 1,000 episodes on that, right? So think about how many years he has. And it was like you, right? Also like a competitive athlete at one point as well.
I wouldn't call myself an athlete, but yes,
but you look like one, man.
Yeah,
you look like a good basketball player.
No, I'm in t-shirt shape. Yeah, take this shirt off. It's gonna be disaster.
Great.
I love that you said like it's fear of stopping you from doing something that someone will say like, Franklin, who cares about this guy? Remember, this guy, he's a loser. You know what I mean?
For me, it was. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think that it was for in every aspect of my life, right? There's always, and I don't know if it was because at one point I had I don't want to say low self-esteem, but as an immigrant, right? I went through a lot, in this country and trying to assert myself and trying to find the life and trying to find my voice and trying to, in this country, because we come here and we are not nobody knows who we are, right? Like I came here when I was 18, right? So you come here like in Honduras, right? I also used to play soccer on my school, and I was pretty good. So and I remember like when I was over there, and we used to play in stadium.
Mm.
A crowd, it was not so big. The crowd, like 500, 600 people, all of them, Franklin, Franklin, Franklin. Come to Canada, Franklin, who's that?
No one cares.
Exactly. Nobody cares. So all that, trying to find your space and trying to find your path and trying to crave for yourself. It's really hard, man. It's really hard, right? I don't have to tell you, because you probably went through the same thing.
Yeah.
And and so while I was going through my route, and also like financial difficulties, right? I had, I don't even want it was very tough, very tough. I don't know if you know what Kijiji is.
Yeah.
Well, at one point in time, Kijiji was my it was me and my brother's best friend, right? Because we would put ads on Kijiji, 2 strong Latinos ready to move your house. So,
oh my, you move houses?
Oh man!
Oh my God!
You tell me. So to get money, because I did. We had to. We were international students, and we didn't. Our financial responsibilities was very, very, very high. So we had to look for ways, and so I moved a lot of houses.
Oh my God!
I'm telling you, yeah, I lived in a lot of houses, and so it was very hard. And then I would, see my friends, right? Who my dad always used to tell me, this, never compare. Like I would always try to like compare myself to people who were born here, but I can't compare myself to people who were born in Canada. Right? I can't. It's impossible, because I came here at 18. Somebody who was born here, right, at 18 has an 18-year advantage
way
over
ahead.
Me.
Not to mention the language.
Correct. He has an 18-year advantage over me. Right? And so it was very hard for me not to compare, right? But again, right, that the competitive of me, and that like, no, I gotta figure this out. Like, but going back to what I was trying to tell you, I just wanted to give you a prelude, because of all those experiences, right? And then seeing my my friends, I would say like, okay, let's go eat chicken wings, and I would be like, okay, sure, let's go. And then just to, when you have the peer pressure, right? When you're young, when I was 25, I go to, and then before paying, I would go to the washroom to check my bank. Please have money to pay this. This pound of wings, it was $20, and I would be like, oh my God, yes, I do. And then because I was even, I became a permanent resident 13 years after I came to Canada.
Wow.
So yeah, I became a permanent resident in 2015, and 2019 I became a citizen. So before that, before you're a permanent resident, like you have, like you have no rights. You're trying to, do, and it was very hard. It was very hard. So, and my friends were doing well, right? They were getting married. They were, getting they had cars. They had, their houses and everything. And, and here I was trying to become a permanent resident, and I was, 26 years old. Right. So because of that, and all that things, I think that fear, like what I was telling you, or I don't know if it's fear or if it's low self-esteem or what it was, because of my experiences, it had always stopped me from being my authentic self. You understand what I mean? But once I got to, I reached a maturity level, right? That only happened when I became a Canadian citizen, right? And I look back on my immigrant story, and I said, wow, everything that I have done and that I have overcome and that I have accomplished, right? I'm like, I can do this. You know what I mean? Like, you can do this. So until then, I started just, I'm just gonna do the best I can on everything.
Just be
Right?
grateful and work hard.
Correct. And that's what that's how I got here now.
You mentioned that you were a international student. How did you get here? Did you apply? Did you have friends here?
It's a very, very complex story, right? How it all happened. So in my dad initially came here to Canada. I was a dependent of him, right? He came here as a diplomat, right, in 2006.
Okay.
But in 2009, so the first 2 years in Canada were like okay, right? In 2009, my life changed, and I don't think that I would wish this on anybody, right? Back home in my country of birth, we had a military coup, a coup d'état. So my dad, was forced to go back, and that's when my life got wild. After June of 2009, right? So because the country suffered a coup d'état, my immigration journey began then, and Honduras was just a chaos, right? Violence was an all-time high. The divisiveness politically and social was clear in the country, and the country was just a turmoil. Right. I was not, because of I had a medical issue in Honduras at a very young age. I was not able to complete my studies, right? So in 2000, when I came, when I was 18, I had only done 9th grade, to 2000, So
What?
when I came, yeah. So when I came to Canada, I had to go to an adult high school. Right, and that's where I spent my first 2 years in Canada. That was a challenge on itself, right? Because it was, I can tell you, it was me trying to assimilate to the country, right? And I didn't have, my classmates were not my age. They were my classmates were a lot older than me, I want to say. So it was hard. And then when the 2019 happened, the 2009 military coup happened, we changed our status to international students, and I knew that my siblings and we couldn't go back to Honduras, right? There was nothing for us there anymore, and plus the problems that I had there, the health issues had caused a lot of damage in our family. So I knew that there was nothing there, and my sole goal, once I became an international student and started studying, my sole goal was just to become a permanent resident, right? So that trumped everything else, right? I just had to become a permanent resident. Now, when I still remember when I was registering for college, right, at Algonquin College here in Ottawa, they gave me a list of colleges, right? I the list of programs available in the college. So I sorted those programs based on price, so the lowest to highest. And I applied to the first 3 cheapest programs available.
Which
right?
are?
Don't ask me. I don't know. And back then, I did not care. Right? All I cared was that I knew that I had to study, because if I studied, I would get a work permit. And once I get a work permit, I would get a postgraduate work permit. And then I would be able to qualify for my permanent resident. And then so in my mind, I always knew that my life in Canada would only start once I became a permanent resident. Before that, my life was like, in my head was always like, before that, I'm just trying to make it to this stage in my life, which
Survival mode.
Exactly. So I was in survival mode. So um funny enough, when the you know, we didn't have any we couldn't access financial aid, right? And we didn't have access for financial help from my dad or anything. It was just me. I was literally on my own, me, my brother, and my mom and my sister. Right? We were just on our own. We're just trying to figure out and see what we could, make it happen here. And I still remember when I went to college, right? The first day that they come and say like, "Oh, welcome students." I don't know what they call it. Oh, fresh week, I think. The first day I'm there, and I still remember clearly. I'm sitting there by myself, right? Because I had no friends. I'm sitting there, and the host, right, in the study, he's like, "Where are all my business marketing peeps? Let me hear it." And then I just thought to myself, I was like, what program am I enrolled in? That's what I thought. I was like, what program am I enrolled in? I'm like, yo, I don't know what I'm doing here. And I'm going to go and try and find out what program I am. So I sat down, went through my emails and tried to find it. And then I finally, okay, perfect. I'm like, yes, I am in business marketing. I did not know anything about marketing. I did not, I never wanted to be a marketing. To be honest with you, I never knew if I had a set, career path or anything. It was just survival mode for me.
Yeah.
And and then I became a permanent, the story, right? I became an international student, graduated, postgraduate work permanent resident, and then I became a citizen, and here I am today.
That's amazing, man. That's a great story.
Yeah.
I admire you.
Yeah, thank you, man.
You keep on mentioning your dad, and I know you just recently lost him, and I send my condolences to you and the family.
No worries, man. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, he was a very strong figure in my life, and in our family, and it was life is weird, and not much you can do when life hits you like that. So yeah, you just try to move on as you can.
Yeah. You mentioned that he passed away because of COVID.
Yeah, COVID-19.
Yeah. Was he weak before that?
No, completely good person. He not sick, not anything, and once that I still remember the day that he called me to tell me that he was positive, right? And it was just so quick, man, so quick. Every single complication that COVID could have had, he had it. That was given, and he passed. 2 months, and the hard thing was that a month after he passed, that's when the vaccines arrived in Honduras, right? And then he didn't have a chance, at all, to do it. At that time we're just trying to make it happen, and but he was a great, I want to keep the memories, the good memories, and all the teachings that he gave me, and the kind of person that he was, and just never give up on life. Doesn't matter what happens to you, man. Just just keep going.
Immigrant mentality.
Yeah, survival mode always. That's the only, and it was mostly because where you raised, right? You grow up in our countries, right? Developing countries, you're always in the survival mode. always 100%. And that just
especially if you're poor.
That's just how it happened. Correct. Yeah.
I read your post, which is so powerful, about your dad, that he came from a poor family and he worked his way up to become a dentist.
Yes, he did. I'm telling you, man, and I still, I recently just went back to, because I wasn't able to, there was no funerals at that time, right? So my dad he impacted my life, and he impacted so many lives, right? And around his persona, right? and we weren't able to do a proper goodbye for him. We didn't have all those cultural traditions that are put in place there, so that we as human beings, we get some closure, right? But if you don't go through, or if you don't see it via Skype or video call or WhatsApp, if you don't see a funeral or something going on, you never get that closure, right? For me, it was like hospital, cemetery. It was like it was a matter of hours, and that was very hard. But so I went recently back to Honduras for his 1 year, right? To kind of seeking the closure that I never got. And when I was there, like, I sat down and my family, my uncles and everything, and I just, I still can't believe it. I'm like, how the hell did he did it, man? Like, just to put an example, like, my grandma, who's still alive, doesn't know how to write or read. His dad, my grandpa, didn't know how to write or read. My uncle doesn't know. His brother, his like second brother, doesn't know how to write or read. My uncle works as he works in the mountain, right, breaking stones with a hammer. Break stones into pieces. And my other uncle, he works with oxes. He has oxes, and he has a little claw behind it, so he prepares the land before you go and plant corn or beans or whatever you have to plant on it. So it was a very like, rough and tough life. And he said that he would tell me that, like, around when he was 17, he decided at that age, he's like, you know what, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, working on a farm. And that's when he decided to just pick up and go to the city and try and in search for an education. And at 17 years old, he entered 7th grade.
Like father, like son.
Yeah. I honestly, I had never seen it that way. But yeah, we had, like, it was a kind of a similar, different circumstances, but it was a very, life works in a funny way, to be honest with you. Yeah, and that's now that I became a father myself, right?
By the way, beautiful boy. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Really
God he looks like mom.
Yeah. We're lucky. I'm lucky for that, eh? So he was actually born 2 months after my dad passed. My dad was so excited for him. I remember that we went skating, right? And I sent my dad a picture of me and my fiance, right, at the skating rink. And then he messaged me back. He's like, "Why are you out there? The kid is gonna be cold." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Man, the kid is in the belly right now." I'm like, "She's wearing a jacket. She's not gonna be cold." Like, "What do you mean?" "Yeah, it's gonna be cold. It's freezing out there. Go home, keep her warm." I'm like, "Are you kidding me, Dad?" I'm like, "Just chill, man." But he was that excited. He was like, very excited for him. It was gonna be his first Canadian grandchild, right? And like, for me and for my whole family, right, he means a lot, because it's like kind of a realization, saying like, oh, we worked so hard for this, and he's the first in our family that he's born here.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
What is your best memory of your dad?
Oh, the best. I have so many, man. I have so many, but one that it always sticks with me. Always. We were going from that city where you have it at the background, Tegucigalpa. We were going to La Ceiba, right, where my mom was. For some reason, we left Tegucigalpa very late, and we decided to do a detour to another city, which is halfway, right in the middle. It's like if you're going from Ottawa to Toronto, right, and you stop, at Hamilton. The hours are the time difference. It's a lot more, but Just an example. You stop in Kingston. I mean, Kingston. You stop halfway, and by the time we got to San Pedro Sula, it was around, I want to say 11, right? And for some reason, we were bringing a mattress right to La Ceiba. And when we got to San Pedro, we got to my uncle's, and when we got there, everything, all the lights were off in that house, right? And I was like, Dad, I'm like, what are we gonna do now? Like, all the lights are off. And he's like, oh yeah, don't worry, we're good. He's like, we're gonna knock on the door and wake them up. No, they're sleeping. Don't worry, come help me. He's like, and I'm like, help you what? He's like, unload this mattress. I'm like, unload the mattress. I'm like, for what? I'm like, we're gonna go sleep on the mattress. He's like, see the gazebo? We're gonna go sleep there. I was like, Dad, I'm like, we're gonna get killed. We're gonna get robbed here. Are you kidding me? Like, no, it's gonna rob you, man. Come on, let's go grab the mattress. So we grabbed the mattress and we put it under the gazebo, and he went to bed. And he's like, if you ever want to make it in life, frankly, he's like, you have to make the floor feel like a king size bed, and you can't know a difference when you sleep on a king size bed. It has to feel like the floor also. You know, if you're able to make a floor feel like a king size bed, and when you sleep on a king size bed, you won't notice a difference, you know, with the floor. That's when you'll make it in life. Just fall asleep. And that was his always. He was very resourceful. He was always very like, you know, there's a problem, find a solution. Don't worry, don't stress. Tomorrow's another day. That story always sticks with me.
Yeah, for sure. What's his name, by the way?
Yeah, his name was Santos Hilario, but his everybody knew him as Lalo, and Lalo is my kid's name.
I was just gonna ask.
Yeah. So I put his
beautiful.
his nickname is my kid's name, Lalo Charles. Yeah, and Charles is my fiance's dad's name. So we combine both names, Lalo Charles.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah. So it has been good. It has been you know, a treat, and now, you know, now becoming a father, right, and trying to you know, I often think of it and reflect on everything that we went through, and how much different my kid's life will be. You know, for example, I was for me to get a health card in Canada took me a while, right? And he got a health card as soon as he was born. And I was like, what? I'm like, this kid is so privileged and so spoiled.
I was just gonna say.
He's so spoiled. I'm like, this kid got a health card and he hasn't even paid 1 ounce of tax yet. What?
That's funny. That's funny that you mentioned that, like, that your life compared to his life is just
it's just gonna be completely different. He'll have access to things that I, you know, like I now have access to things that I never thought that I would have access in my life. And neither did I think that my kid would ever have access to the things that he'll have. You know, and you know, but I always try to, you know, I know that as he grows older, he'll probably like be a lot more curious to kind of understand, you know, the story behind him and how he came to be, and understand my life, and understand my dad's life, and understands my grandpa's life, and his mom, and his grandpa's life, and you know, so I just want to be ready to be able to, you know, to make sure that he gets the best experiences and gets to understand both cultures, right? And that's why, like, and that's one of the things that I want to do. Like, if you connect it to the Spanglish Hour, right? Because he'll have access to how can I tell you? He will grow up with kind of a double identity, right? His Canadian identity, because he's Canadian, and then he'll grow with his Latin, you know, background, because, you know, he'll have a little Latin on his blood, and so that's why I wanted the Spanglish Hour also, right? Because there's lots of Latinos like that. There's lots of kids like that who Latinos immigrated to Canada. They have kids. Their kids are not Canadians, and for one reason or another, the kids lose their Spanish, right? And you know, because they lose their Spanish, they never feel Latino enough, or or as they grow older, they want to understand their roots. And because their Spanish is not, they think, oh, well, those are not my roots. And no, they are. And it's okay if you have to mix, if you speak in Spanish and you have to resort to your English because your Spanish is not good enough. You know, and I just wanted to have a show that will help those you know, people like my kid now.
That's beautiful. What did you learn from your dad that you will make sure to pass on to your kid?
Perseverance and be aspirational. Perseverance, like it doesn't matter what happens to you or where you're at in life. You know, you can always turn around your own life. You can always do it. And as long as you aspire to be a better person, aspire to be better in your career, aspire to be, you know, and that's what I want my kid to be. I want him to aspire always to better things, and knows that he has to persevere to achieve his aspirations.
Beautiful. You speak Spanish to him?
Only Spanish.
Nice.
Yeah, only Spanish. And my fiance speaks French to him, and we kind of throw an English word now and then.
So what's his main language right now?
His main language, I think it'll probably be French, right? And then Spanish, and then the English he'll learn it from. He'll go into daycare, and his daycare is going to be completely francophone, and he'll go to French French schools and universities, and then I'll make sure that he gets his Spanish, and the English, you know, he'll learn it. English is everywhere. He'll learn it.
Oh, so you want him to go to a French school?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I want him, because I want him to have, you know, I want him to be able to speak French and, you know, English and Spanish. I want to have all three languages, and if you know English, I think that it's harder to learn French after, so it's better to just submerge yourself in French, and English you'll pick it up.
Yeah, I agree. Because Spanish and French, they're kind of alike.
It's very similar. I understand a lot of French because of that, because it's you know, and that's another complexity that you add, right? If you add what I was telling you, this the complexity of growing with a kind of a two identities, right? You know, the Canadian and the Latin identity, right? And within the Canadian, then you have Anglophone and you have the Francophone identity as well. So it's just a conglomerations of different things. But you know, I think he'll enjoy it, and his life will hopefully will be good.
Yeah, for sure. I call them future babies, the mixed babies.
Yeah, future babies. Yeah,
because they are the future. Like, I'm not being, you know, prejudiced towards like pure, but like it's scientifically proven that mixing culture or mixing DNA like from different places of the world is better than, you know, being together.
Yeah, and that's you know, if you Canada is a good example of that, right? Like, you know, indigenous with Anglophone, indigenous with French, and then that's how the country became what it is today.
Exactly. I have two babies.
Oh, so you have two babies also?
I have two boys. They're not babies anymore. Yeah.
How old are they now?
The first one is in high school now, and the second one's graduating elementary.
Wow. Yeah. That's great. So,
Thank you.
You know, any tips for a new parent?
Don't listen to any tips.
Just figure it out, you know, with experience.
No one knows what's going on, I promise you.
No one knows what's going on. That's a great tip. Nobody knows what's going on. Just go through the motions.
Yeah, figure it out, dude, because people will say A and then people will say B, and you'll be like, I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah, so just do what you feel is right as a parent, right? And I think that's a lot from parenthood. I think that's from what I have, you know, I've only been a dad for for a year and a couple of days. But I feel that it's a lot of going with your gut, right? Of what you think is good and what you think is not good, and when do you think you can do some things and when do you think you can't do some things, right? And until now, I think that my gut feeling has been, especially with the pandemic going on, and with what I went through with my dad and all the stuff, right? I've had to resort to my gut a lot, right? And tell me like, okay, like, you know what? I think that I'm okay to get this level of exposure, and not right now is not the time to do this exposure. And right now, so my gut, I guess, has been trained a lot during the last year.
Yeah, don't listen to any books. Don't listen to people like me that's, hey, you have to do this to be a good dad. Bro, just follow your gut.
And that's it, eh? That's great. That's a great advice. So you do have a great advice to give, eh?
I guess so. I just don't. I don't know. I just don't like, when I had my kid, people are like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. Not to mention that, my kids are half. I'm Filipino, and then my wife is Italian Irish. So there's a lot of mixture there,
There's a lot of mixture there, yeah.
So it was a bit of a challenge with what should we follow? Because, growing up in Honduras, you have this idea of how to be a parent, right?
Correct.
Then you come to Canada, plus your wife is a different ethnicity.
Yeah.
Like, which one are you gonna find out? What are we gonna do? Like, should we continue skating and the boy is gonna be cold, or we should go home?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's true. Wow, it's true. It's a lot of gut feeling now, I find.
There is no right, there's no wrong. Just do what you think is the best for the boy.
Yeah.
That's it. No right. If they say, oh, that's wrong. You know what? You're not the one who's feeding my kid.
Exactly. That's it.
You know what I mean? Like, I always say that it's easy to be a father. It's hard to be a dad.
Very true.
It's easy to be a father because, you do the job and that's it. The woman does the 100% of the job. We just stand on the corner, right?
Yeah.
But once you care, once you think about how to raise this beautiful, beautiful child, that's when pressure comes on, man.
Yeah. Very true. And I find myself now, like, even looking at the future, right? Health wise or anything that has to be, is like, okay, like now I don't think. Before I was more of like, take it day by day, and now it's like, well, I still take it day by day, but I still have to think about down the road, because it's not just me that I'm thinking about now, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have to take care of yourself now, so you're able to take care of them.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
When you don't want to go for a run or exercise, you think about it like, oh man, I want to last longer, so I need to do this.
That's exactly it.
But fatherhood is a beautiful thing.
It is, man. I'm enjoying it. Not gonna lie to you, and it presented challenges on itself, but it's nothing that you can't handle.
Definitely. Listen, Franklin, it's been an amazing conversation. I really want to thank you for coming on the podcast. But before we close out, do you have any last remarks or whatever you want to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, for the invitation and for allowing me to share my story with your audience. It really means a lot. And, I want to just motivate you to just keep going, keep forward. You're doing a great job. And now that I've experienced how good of a job you do, right? I'm telling you, your mom is right. You're really good at this. And I just want to close by saying that, as the life of many immigrants, right? My life in Canada has been no exception, right? And it has been full of challenges, but that I believe that nothing of what I have been able to overcome and achieve would be possible in any other country in the world. Canada is the best country in the world, and I'm proud to be Canadian.
Amen. Thank you again, Franklin. Have a good evening.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
Again, Franklin, thank you for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, listeners, for listening. This is Aaron Deliosa for An Immigrant's Life. I'll see you guys later.